You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages of the newspapers as they come into us. It's time to see what's making the headlines with Daily Mirror columnist Susie Boniface and comment editor at the Daily Telegraph, Annabelle Denham. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's take a look at what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, the Eye reports that the UK is ready to drop aid into Gaza by air after Israel announced they would allow countries to do so. The Mirror urges readers not to look away, with the paper featuring a photo of a starving young child on its front page. The Times reports on Sir Keir Starmer rejecting calls to back Palestinian statehood, following more than 200 MPs across 9 parties signing a letter encouraging him to do so. The Daily Telegraph says prostate patients are being ignored by the NHS, with some men having to visit their GP at least 5 times before being referred for the right tests. The Daily Mail reports that county lines gangs have turned from dealing drugs to snatching phones in a growing £70 million epidemic. The Express leads on campaigners warning that the farming industry is facing devastation due to tax increases. The Financial Times says efforts to increase revenues from capital gains tax have backfired, causing further issues for Chancellor Rachel Reeves. The Sun carries an exclusive from former MasterChef star Greg Wallace, who says, "I'm not a groper, sex pest or flasher," as he attempts to clear his name. And the Daily Star's headline, "It's coming bone." England team reveal their secret weapon ahead of the Lionesses Euros final on Sunday. It's to do with a dog. It involves a dog. That's the reason for the headline. We're joined tonight by Susie and Annabelle to take us through the papers, starting with much more serious fare, front page of The Times. Their headline says that the PM rejects calls to back Palestinian statehood, but that's not entirely factually correct, is it, Susie?
No, it's a bit unfair. So what's happened is that a number of Labour MPs, quite reasonably, I think it's getting up to about 200 now, it's at least 130 when the Times went to press, I think it's a bit more than that now, have written to Keir Starmer asking him to recognise Palestinian statehood. Emmanuel Macron of France has already done that. Germany has been a bit more cautious and has not done that. And the Americans are not doing it and think that it's the wrong thing to do. But Starmer has written as an op-ed in the Mirror today, and he's released a statement saying, "I agree with this, but I don't want to do it right now. I think there is a time to do it when it is optimum to get the most possible peace and oomph and so on out of it. If we do it now, it's kind of too early." So the headline's a bit unfair. But then again, you've got to think about Starmer's politics here. What? It's better to say that people deserve a state of their own at a certain point in time, but not yet. I mean, is this what people would have said in 1945 when the concentration camps were being emptied and people were saying, well, we'd like a homeland now, please? It's the same thing.
But he's not saying that they don't deserve a homeland.
He's not saying
that he's not going to recognise the state of Palestine.
No, he will recognise it at some point when
he's saying that it should be as part of a peace deal.
And, yeah, statehood obviously would be part of any peace deal if there is ever a peace deal and if there is any ever chance of statehood. But we're nowhere near a place where there's going to be a peace deal, it would seem. And the one man in the world who has the ability to order other people to make peace is playing golf in Scotland. So, good luck.
But it's obviously no coincidence that Starmer is perhaps being a little withholding in view of the fact that the US president has come over. He will not want this visit, despite it being quite low-key, and Donald Trump is coming back to the UK for a more official state visit later this year. But he will not want it to have been dominated, overshadowed by the issue of Palestinian statehood. So you can see why there might be some reticence from Number 10 to jump in with both feet following Macron with his pledge to recognise it.
Do you think, had President Trump not been visiting, that we would have heard different soundings from Sir Keir Starmer?
I don't think it's unreasonable for Keir Starmer to be saying that he wants it to be part of a wider peace plan, if indeed this is a necessary step at all. You know, I'm far from convinced. There are massive practical problems with the UK recognising a Palestinian state. You know, which boundaries are we going to be recognising? It's not a democracy. Who will exercise sovereignty over Palestine? There are many such issues that would need to be addressed. So, you know, any withholding that we're seeing from the Prime Minister, to my mind, is absolutely welcome. But I wonder whether Trump's presence here has made him feel a little bit more emboldened when he's reading that letter from 130-plus backbenchers, when he's got that mounting pressure from cabinet ministers. Perhaps he's feeling, you know, if there ever was a time, it certainly isn't now.
Well, we have heard President Trump rubbishing President Macron, have we, saying that, you know, it doesn't carry any weight what he's saying and it really doesn't matter. And there's a quote here from Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, saying that Macron's decision was reckless and only serves Hamas propaganda. He said it's a slap in the face to the victims of October the 7th.
Well, everything that's happening in Gaza and Palestine is serving Hamas propaganda. Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas terrorist who devised those awful, appalling attacks, wanted to provoke a massive conflict that would be so brutal that the West would turn against Israel, which is kind of what we are seeing because it has gone so far. All of this, you could say, is exactly what Yahya Sinwar would have wanted, would not object to any of this stuff. But just domestically, Starmer's got growing problems within his cabinet and within his party, who are very used now, getting the habit of putting pressure on him to make him change his position. Angela Rayner appears to have been briefing some of the papers that she's also on the side of those who want to call for statehood. Several cabinet ministers are. And he finds himself in a position, whether it's right or wrong, or whatever reason he's in that position, which is he's saying, no, I'm not going to do it yet. Other people saying, no, we want you to do it now. And until he does do it, he is going to be asked, have you done it yet? Why aren't you doing it? Are you rejecting it? Are you anti it? And those kind of headlines are going to continue until he finally does say it. And by that point, when he does get to that place, it won't mean anything so much. And people will go, oh, thank God for that, at last. And it will seem like a U-turn. That's what it will then turn into, from, you know, not quite being rejection, it will turn into a U-turn of a position that he used to have. And he will look like he's been pushed to it. It's terribly badly handled.
But, I mean, it's safe to say that Macron putting a dateline, September, on recognising the state of Palestine, that has put added pressure on Sir Keir Starmer, although he said that he's unequivocal about there needing to be.
Yes, he does have some time. He could turn out in September and with jointly with Macron do the same thing. But even if that were to happen, and it would be reasonable and sane, it is still going to look to some of the newspapers and some of the people, the commentators and the headline writers, that he's finally fallen in line with Macron. He's finally decided to change his tune.
And he's bowed to pressure from his backbenchers or cabinet ministers. And, you know, this is a Prime Minister who many people feel is lacking any sense of guiding philosophy or ideology or belief system. But I do think that one thing that this underscores is really the impotence of European countries now, because it's all very well saying we can make this symbolic gesture and recognise Palestinian statehood, but ultimately it's not going to have any bearing on the outcome of this conflict. It's not going to put any real pressure on Israel to withhold or to sort of withdraw and abandon its military objectives in Gaza. It won't have any influence on Donald Trump and America's support for Israel in achieving its military goals. So, you know, I do feel that's underscored you know, by this move by European countries, that ultimately we have very little sway. And, you know, if Israel is supposed to be an ally of the UK, again, I just question why we're choosing this moment to further embolden, you know, Hamas, which launched that terrible pogrom on them 18 months ago.
Meanwhile, we turn to the front page of the Eye Weekend and the fact that people in Gaza, meanwhile, are starving. Israel has given permission for international forces to drop aid from the air, and the UK is set to take a lead in this, Susie.
Yeah, we did this before a little while ago when Israel let aid in. It's by no means bad. It's never enough. To be allowed to send a couple of planes over to drop some aid is not enough. The way the aid situation is being run at the moment in Gaza, which is to keep it very restricted, has turned the areas around the aid distribution centres effectively into killing zones, whether you just must call it accidental crushes or intentional firing by the military contractors which are guarding those aid points. And, you know, I've been in humanitarian disasters and refugee centres, and there are only two things that you can never get anywhere else. And the two things that I'll never forget from my time reporting on the road are the smell of death, which is absolutely unique. You do not get that anywhere else at all. And I will smell it on every time that I close my eyes. And the sound of starving children in an aid tent who cry at a rate and at a pitch that is unlike any other child's cry. It is of a tone that if anyone has ever heard it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, then you can't. But there is no way to save an awful lot of those people, even those that could survive this, will be affected and traumatised for the rest of their lives. Their bodies will not develop, their brains will not develop. And even if you can somehow build some kind of peaceful situation, their attitude is never going to be quite what it would be if this hadn't happened to them. And if all you're going to be allowed to do is send over a couple of planes and drop some aid, you're just kind of prolonging it. I mean, people can survive a long time without much food, but it's the recovery and it's what's going on in that closed area where journalists aren't allowed in, where the only footage that's coming out is being produced by some incredibly brave freelance journalists who are themselves starving in there. It is not an excuse for some of the most brutalised people on earth to go and brutalise others, and that applies on both sides of that conflict.
I mean, I think there are two sort of issues here that perhaps are slightly underexplored. The first is obviously that Israel insisted that this new organisation be set up, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, in order to get aid into Gaza, and that was in large part as a consequence of the fact they felt that the UN had been compromised, and therefore the UN has been restricted in the amount of aid that it has been able to bring into Gaza, which has arguably potentially exacerbated that situation. And the second is that Hamas, you know, we know that they use food aid as a weapon. We know that they have a history of confiscating support. We know that civilian casualties are a propaganda tool for this terrorist organisation.
But that happens in every aid situation. In every aid situation, the soldiers put the parcels of food in the front, they lock the door and someone's taking it out the back and they're selling it at 10 times the street value. It happens everywhere in the world where food aid gets delivered. There's ways to deal with it, but to entirely reduce the world's third sector organisations from going in and helping to deliver and administer that aid, you've handed it over, oh, sorry, not you, but Israel's handed it over just to military contractors and the IDF, who are handling it apparently very incompetently and, you know, the best possible way of looking at it.
Very difficult if it's then funding them.
Yeah, we'll just end this section, if we may, by looking at the front page of the Mirror and their headline, "Don't Look Away." You cannot deny that the starvation and the famine, which has actually been denied by Israeli Representative Danny Danon. He said there is no famine. And these are the front pages that we see.
Well, in lots of places where people starve, there's no famine because there is food if you have the money to pay for food. If you have £1 million, you can buy a bag of flour in Gaza right now, and you can probably eat OK. If you don't have £1 million, which most of them don't, that's what's going to happen to your 2-year-old.
Yeah, and the line was that it is a man-made famine, in essence. Susie and Annabelle, thank you very much for the moment. Coming up, Don roaming, why the Mirror is highlighting the cost of security around Donald Trump's 4-day visit to the UK. We'll be right back.
Go ahead, back white jacket.
Deborah Haynes from Sky News. He called you Daddy earlier.
No, he did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy. Thank you.
Leicester is on its knees.
They've ripped the soul out of my factory and there's nothing left.
It is eerily quiet.
It's constantly on the brink of capacity.
There's overcrowding. It's not a new thing.
It's rough.
There's nothing to hide. Why aren't international journalists allowed in? Are you worried about escalation?
Of course I'm worried about escalation, which is why my focus is on de-escalation.
The region, I think, is on edge because they are anticipating a retaliation.
Iran retaliates for the US attacks.
Founding principle of the alliance, that an attack on one is an attack on all.
Could Putin attack another NATO country within 5 years?
Hear that whistle and that crunch. We know that they're coming from the south of the city where there's a column of Russian armoury. I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
Look at that sheet of flames, and that has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides and it's moving this way.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war. This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
I saw police being forceful, pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support.
What country are you
From the UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club. 4 more years! Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Turkey is burying its dead.
Whole families died in this collapse. Generations wiped out.
I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets.
Anyone could say, I'll do that, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, Daily Mirror columnist Susie Boniface and comment editor at the Daily Telegraph, Annabelle Denham. Let's take a look at this story inside the Mirror. Don roaming is the headline, and it's basically talking about the security operation that is surrounding the president's visit to Scotland.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the footage earlier on, and there were 8 bobbies standing at the end of a road next to a road closed sign. Although one could have done it, but obviously there had to be 8 standing there for when he drove past, so he looked, so he could see that there were police officers there. Because if there was just one lad there going, "All right, Mr. President," he would probably say, "Well, this is rubbish. We've got no police officers left. What are you doing?"
Well, we don't have many police officers.
That's because they're all in flipping Scotland. So they've got 5,000 police officers. It's costing millions of pounds. He's obviously had, like, 3 different aircraft coming over here, bringing his cars and his security agents and goodness knows what over here, and his extra bed and his personal chef and et cetera, et cetera. And can I point out that we're paying for all this and he's here to open a golf course? It's not even the state visit. It's not like we're getting... Oh, look, Keir Starmer's going to go and have a cup of tea with him. But I mean, it's not like we're getting anything out of this. But we're putting on all this security for him to open a golf course that he shouldn't be opening because it's corrupt if you're president. But anyway...
Well, that's the blurring of lines, isn't it, between...
There is no blurring of that line, it's just across the line.
There is now. There's a definite blurring of lines. There's no precedent for a president who's actually doing personal business as well as doing political business for the country, which is what he's going to be doing. We're told it was a private visit, but
Keir Starmer, and they'll be discussing trade and business and that sort of thing. So, what I thought was quite interesting was they're worried about issues arising from the Stop Trump coalition and protests which may be occurring. But just the very existence of this body slightly amuses me, given that 77 million people in America voted for Donald Trump. So what exactly is it this this group of protesters are trying to stop. But I do hope, despite my support for the general right to protest, that they don't cause too much trouble for the US president. I think it would be quite embarrassing for the UK if we weren't to give.
I hope they all stand
him a
at the
warm welcome.
outside of the barbed wire fence and synchronise, just to have a big huff of air like that, just to blow his toupee up.
Allegedly. We have no confirmation of that. Let us turn to happier stories. I'm sure that you'll think this is a happier story. Susie, the Daily Star front page, is it coming, well...
That's not the Daily Star front page.
No, definitely not.
That's
It's the wrong
definitely
colour.
the FT. Yes, so the Lionesses have got a mascot in the shape of a lovely pup called Reggie, but frankly, they don't need a mascot. They don't need some kind of, like, you know, Ollie the Octopus who can and do the figure out which score it's going to be or anything else, because they've got Serene, they've got a great team, and that's it, you know. And if they could just have those instead of the men's team, I mean, that'd be marvellous. So they can all just transfer over.
Your prediction that they are going to
I think they should all start identifying as men/women, and then they can play for both teams simultaneously, and we'll start winning stuff.
As a dog owner, I fully endorse the idea that they've got a Cavapoo as an emotional support, helping them to, get through the game against Spain on Sunday.
Yes, cuddling Reggie is their secret superpower. May it serve them well. Susie and Annabelle, thank you very much for the moment.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, the weather will be changeable over the next few days with rain at times, but there will be some brighter spells and things are set to turn warmer next week. Saturday morning brings a mix of sunny spells and scattered showers with a mostly dry start in the southeast. Thicker cloud and drizzly rain across Wales and western England will slowly edge eastwards through the day. Temperatures will reach the high teens or low 20s, near average for midsummer. Some heavy and thundery showers will break out across central and eastern parts of England during the afternoon.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. Qatar Airways sponsors the weather.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin. The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks. If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.